All right, yeah, thank you guys again for joining. So I'm excited to get to talk about this case study. It's one of my clients I've enjoyed working with the most at my time here, and a set of campaigns that has been really fun to work with over the years. So let's start with the request. So the request we originally received from Woodfin was they wanted to generate qualified leads for their whole home generators. So that was the original request. How can we get these leads for this particular service line? And the challenges behind it, the challenge behind this particular service of theirs was that unlike some of their other services like plumbing or HVAC or electrical, which are more need-based, like you need running water, you need heat. In contrast, generators are more of a nice-to-have product. They have a high initial cost and they're nice to have. So more of a luxury product than a need like their other services. And then it's also very unfamiliar to a lot of consumers or homeowners. Like people know what a generator is and what it does for them, but they have a lot of information they don't know. They don't know what type of generator do I need, what size, how does it work, where does it go? That's a lot of information they don't know at the beginning. And then it's also something that is on a lot of people's list. They have fresh memories of whatever latest ice storm or hurricane hit Richmond and losing all their food and having to charge their phone in their car. And so it's on their list, but it isn't really a high priority until the next weather event comes along. So those are some of the challenges, and then the approach, and I'll walk through each of these, but real quick, the three components of this approach was a generator buying guide in a PDF form, running seasonal and evergreen ads on Facebook, Instagram, Google Display, and Google Discover, and then finally an email nurturing sequence. So let's go through each of these. First of all, we had the generator buying guide. So we had some discussions with the Woodfin team and with the sales team on the generator side of things. And we found out what are the common questions that people ask when they're looking into buying a generator. And then we created this PDF. It's like 6 or 7 pages, and it covers the top information, or it covers the top questions that people have. And they can access it by filling out a form on a PDF. So the idea here is if you have a really expensive or complicated product that you're marketing for, then try marketing higher up the funnel. So instead of marketing just buy a generator, we went up the funnel in the process and focused on marketing the first steps for these consumers, because it is an expensive product, it's a confusing product. So we are marketing the information that will help them make a decision. And so we're increasing the trust that people have for Woodfin, because they're the ones providing them and helping them with this, this purchase. And then hopefully when they are ready to make a purchase, they'll turn to Woodfin. And so when it comes to actually promoting this buying guide, like I mentioned, we have chosen to run ads on Facebook and Instagram, Google Display, and then Google Discovery. And we have 2 types. We have weather specific ones, and we have these running when there is a major weather event in Richmond. So before and after a snowstorm, before and after a hurricane. And we found even if the hurricane is just in the news, like maybe it's affecting another part of the country, we will see that people respond to a hurricane-focused ad, even in Richmond. And then we also have more general ads. So one of the goals of this campaign was also to generate generator leads, even when there wasn't a weather event happening. Because when there is a weather event, the phone's ringing off the hook. And so how do we also generate leads when the weather is calm and beautiful and people aren't worried about power outages? So let's look at some specific examples here. So these first two are clearly weather focused. So these are some Facebook ads we've run. The one on the left is obviously for snowy or icy weather. And then the one on the right was a way we chose to represent a hurricane. We didn't want to have ads that were fear mongering, like having houses that, have damage from a hurricane, or, we just didn't want to have like a negative perspective on that. So this is actually on Wikipedia. For every hurricane season, you can see a graph of the storm paths for that hurricane season. So this is a tactic we tried that worked really well. I want to draw your attention down here to where it shows the number of likes and comments and shares. And you can see one thing that this campaign consistently sees is a lot of engagement on social. A lot of discussion happens in the comments, and Woodfin does such a good job encouraging this. So whether it's someone asking a question, someone just talking about how buying a generator was the best decision they ever made, someone who's had like an unrelated customer service issue, and Woodfin's just really great about jumping in and responding to that. And I think that level of engagement is one of the reasons why on social this has been such a successful campaign. And then some other examples here would be some of the non-weather specific ones. So on the left here, these are all Google ads. On the left here is an example of a responsive display ad. The one in the middle, a discovery ad, and then a static image ad. The one in the middle amuses me because it's, you can kind of see, you can scroll through it, and it's just all different images of a generator installed. And people love it. It's one of the top performing ads. It's even a top performer on Facebook. Like the one version of the ad has hundreds of comments at this point. So it's pretty funny because you would think, well, we can't just throw up an image of a gray box. But it turns out if you have 5 or 6 images of a gray box, people love it. And so it's been funny to see how well that's done. And the idea here is just all the different ways that we are able to represent the same thing, which is selling a generator buying guide, whether it's related to a weather event or when things are calm, and just the concept of here's how you get started on buying a generator. And then the third part of these campaigns is the email sequence. So in this case, we're using an email sequence that we created in Constant Contact. And there's all sorts of different pathways that someone can go down depending on the way that they interact with the emails. So some examples is if they interact with the buying guide that they've requested, then they'll continue to receive emails about generators. And as they either interact with those emails or don't interact with those emails, then that dictates how quickly they end up with a salesperson on the Woodfin side, how quickly they're moved along. And then another example is if they request the guide, but they never look at it, we'll send them a reminder once after a week, just, hey, don't forget about this thing you said you wanted. If they have a certain level of engagement, we'll send them a special offer. Like if they started off super engaged and then kind of stopped responding or stopped opening emails, we'll send them a special offer because obviously at one point they were interested. And then to be nice, if they are unresponsive, then they don't receive any additional emails. So of course we want to be respectful of that. So with all of those 3 components built together, if we get to the results part, in 2021, this campaign or these sets of campaigns have generated a 19x return on investment for Woodfin when it comes to generators. So it's really accomplished the goal we set out, which was generating qualified leads that are going to result in additional sales, by helping people who are just trying to get information and moving them all the way down through the sales process.
Dan asks, because we didn't really get too much into the specific KPIs, but can you elaborate a little bit on the metrics you were paying attention to? I mean, ROI is the end goal, but what else were you measuring along the way?
Yeah, so There was lots of different things, I guess. First was obviously the click-through rate when it came to which ads people were responding to. We did have some creative along the way that were duds. So that was the first metric. And then of course, conversion rate when it came to the ads. So I would say those would be the two on the ad side of things. And then within constant contact, seeing which emails would, like, people would click on the links within the emails. And so we made some changes based off of what was or was not being clicked on. So we made various improvements along the paths, each of the parts of the strategy.
And I have to say, Workshop Digital, just a little plug for you guys, has been wonderful through this whole putting this all together. But Allison really has been phenomenal working with us with this and making sure it works. So thank you.
Kelly. Well, we didn't mean to turn it into a sales pitch, but
I know.
no, the real reason that we wanted to tell the story and have you here is because we don't often get to see the inside story, right? What you see internally, and that's where we get to put you on the hot seat a little bit. One of the things, we could talk about clicks and metrics and conversions all day long, which is what we do, but internally you see different goals and objectives and metrics. Can you talk a little bit about how you viewed this internally as, whether or not it's successful, what kind of conversations you're having with your marketing team and sales team? So just walk us through what it looks like internally when you've got a marketing program like this. Sure.
Well, and I shared this with Andrew and Allison yesterday. When any program that you start off, startup, you're going to have obviously some things that kinks you have to work out per se. But generally the sales team took it on very well. I mean, of course they love the leads. But the one thing we did kind of run into was getting used to that, coupon towards the end and learning the flow of the program. But once we got that down, now they're very used to it. And everybody loves this. We make sure we go into the sales lead and let them know when a coupon has been given out to that particular person. So when they do go out there, they are prepared. One thing that we did see about this program is the popularity of generators, how that has changed over the years. Allison touched on the fact that, it started off as a luxury item, but because, financing and other things we've become more of a connected world, I believe that, standby generators have become more of a necessity to more people than originally they thought it would be. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, so the customers are definitely changing. Sounds like the pain point's not changing, right? Sitting there in the dark after an ice storm or a hurricane.
Right.
Maybe it's a good segue into some of the research y'all have done into those customers and where they're engaging and how you use that data to figure out things like targeting. We got a question from Aaron about the type of targeting that you're using for these campaigns on display and discover and social. So can you maybe elaborate a little bit on how you got from point A, learning about the customer or prospect, to point B?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, we do a lot. Well, every year we actually run, I guess, a program to see exactly where our customers are as far as demographic wise. And I feel like these customers fall very closely to our HVAC customers, and it does tend to trend a little, I guess, to an older demographic per se. But I guess it aligns with the social ones, I guess, Allison, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, yes, I agree with what you said. And then also we're lucky in that the ad platforms all have a homeowners audience. So we are able to utilize that. We also are a big fan of the similar audiences. So building similar audiences off of Woodfin's existing customers has been a successful strategy as well. So that allows us to see what are the attributes of the existing customers, and then let the platforms try to find more of those. So that actually it has been a very small, like these results are not remarketing. There's a very small component of it over the years that we've used, or that we've done remarketing for. So it's mainly been a prospecting audience focused on either homeowners or the similar audience options. I think that answered all your questions.
Geography would basically be the service area that Woodfin
Oh,
covers,
yes.
right?
Yes,
Mhm.
yep, yeah, that's a pretty well-defined one, would be the service area for Woodfin. Yep.
Yeah, it's a great question. Mike asked how you're tracking sales and attributing to those specific campaigns that you talked about.
So
Yeah, so
we
on
have-
the,
oh, go
oh,
ahead.
sorry.
Go
Well, I'll
ahead.
talk about the ad side, and then once it goes off into your land.
Yeah.
So on the ad
Okay.
side, because it's a landing page, and the only way people get to that landing page are through the ads we're running, then everyone who fills out the form on that landing page ends up in the constant contact sequence. And then once they're in that sequence, then I will let Kelly answer what I interrupted her. She was trying to say.
Yeah, so once it gets into the sequence, we will track it on the back end. And we have a separate leads tracking program that we use. And then we will compare the two lists and actually follow it all the way through to the emails, to the coupon. And then, like I mentioned before, we'll make sure we notify the salesman if someone has booked an appointment and if they've received that coupon.
So from there to get the ROI that you shared, because I know we can't talk about specific numbers and everything, but to get to that ROI number, you're looking at sales directly attributed to this campaign, the use of the coupon and so on, compared to the costs and investment.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, in order for, I mean, to get that number, we would have to follow it all the way through because, you know, as you all probably know, you know, customers call in and they can say, hey, you know, I heard of you on TV, but yet really they downloaded the guide and that's kind of what started it. But the TV is the last thing that they saw. So following it through gives us that exact data that that's exactly where they came from. So.
Yeah, and that's tricky. I mean, that whole attribution and CRM connection. I mean, we did a whole separate webinar on that yesterday, and that's a whole different topic. So
yeah,
it's great to show it in use and actually that it can be done because it's complicated, it's challenging. You know, it's vital now
yes.
because there's just a lot more competition out there. But Mike had a question. What CRM do you use if you're comfortable sharing that?
For leads tracking, we actually have a access program that we use, but we have a CRM program on the service side called Cargus, which mainly is for home service companies like ourselves. But mainly we use the leads tracking, the access program for that aspect.
Yeah, Cargus is industry specific, so it can work even if it's not a HubSpot or Salesforce or something that's more common. And we see the same thing. Healthcare has their own systems, right? Every industry has their own vertical platforms that require a little bit different types of connectors and integrations and tracking and everything else, but it can work. All right, so Aaron, you had some questions, and feel free to chime in too if you want to hop on the mic. You can do that as well. But so we've got the attribution information. We're converting leads to sales. The question is, are you able to use that information and feed back into the targeting or the overall strategy?
Yeah, Aaron, that is a dream of ours that we have not yet taken on for this. So currently, no, we're not feeding the data back in directly into the ad platforms.
Yeah. All right, John, what's up, John? Do you have any benchmarks on open rates and what that waterfall looks like from maybe how many leads you get to closed sales?
We do have that. I don't know it off the top of my head. I would have to look into what that was, the various open rates, and then what percent followed through to a close. I don't have that off the top of my head. No.
Yeah, I don't have the spreadsheet open.
I think just generally it's safe to say, because it's such a big ticket item and such a considered purchase, that it takes a lot of leads to generate one sale. But those sales are valuable. And obviously with the lead volume that's coming in, it's showing, it's trickling down to enough sales to generate the positive ROI.
Right. I mean, especially during a weather event, the cost per lead is such that it helps result in that is low enough that it results in that high ROI.
Yeah. All right. So you're welcome, John. Awesome question as usual. So when you're talking to customers, Kelly, because you mentioned the sales team likes the program, what kind of feedback are you getting from customers? Once obviously they're happy once they have the generator installed, but can you gather and collect any of that feedback and then use it in any of your other marketing channels?
Absolutely. The one thing, and like you spoke to, it is a complicated product, and a lot of people, first of all, don't know the difference between a portable and a standby generator. So that's the first hurdle that we have to go over and educate everyone on that. But then there's also a lot of steps along the way, with the fuel line and getting that in there. And one thing that we do that not all generator companies do is we handle all the permits and inspections and things like that. So making sure that information is educated to the customer. And that's what the buying guide does, is kind of give them this information that they necessarily don't have. So because of the generator success, we do have an HVAC buying guide, and we've also talked about possibly developing some for some other aspects of the company as well.
Yeah, recreating the same idea for other service lines. Yep.
And then obviously you can take the positive reviews, use them across, your local marketing strategies, directories,
sure.
testimonials on the website, and all that good stuff. That's
absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. You touched earlier on, Kelly, about like the internal response. When you do something new like this is constant source of friction too. We see in a lot of companies when you have a new marketing initiative that's going to impact other departments. Obviously, sales has to get involved and have buy-in and everything.
Yeah.
How do you communicate this internally? Like, we're on the agency side, so we don't always get to see inside when you're having those conversations. But like, what does it look like, at least at Woodfin, in your experience, when you need them to do something different? How do you get them on board? Because that can be a challenge for a lot of companies where marketing and sales aren't aligned too well.
Yeah. Well, we have a really good management team that we meet every day. So I'm able to communicate new efforts and get them excited about it, so that then they can take it on to their departments. But also, the main component would be the sales team and would be the customer service team, to make sure they have enough education about it. So when somebody calls in, the questions can be answered. So we use various different things like email. I put together like a marketing update anytime we have new marketing efforts. I'll send it out to everybody. And then of course our sales manager and assistant sales manager, they have their weekly meeting with the sales team. So they make sure that they go over everything in detail, so that they're prepared to sell it correctly and have the knowledge about the ins and outs of the program.
Yeah, I think that last part is key. Because
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can drive all the leads you want.
Sure.
But when you're in a sales-based organization, if the sales team doesn't understand or isn't on board or isn't incentivized,
yeah,
we've seen it break down. It doesn't happen like that.
Yeah, we've seen that a lot. Like marketing has like a certain offer or something, and the sales team's never heard of it. And not with Woodfin, of course, with other clients. And it just, it breaks down when that communication's not there.
Yeah, and even on the customer service side, the simplest coupon coming in and somebody asking out on customer service has no idea. So
yeah. Anything not go according to plan? I mean, I know this has evolved over time, but have you tested anything or seen anything, either Allison with the campaigns or Kelly internally, that was just unexpected, or people like to learn about the fails too? So
I mean, I think Constant Contact had hiccups here and there, but we've kind of muddled through those. I'm trying to think. Can you think of any?
I mean, besides creative that has disappointed us, which I mean, that's pretty standard and you can see quickly when it's not working, people aren't responding to it, the click-through rate goes down. Or in this case, if people aren't like, if the conversation doesn't start again on a new ad, then like for Woodfin, in Woodfin's case, we know that it's not a good ad. If people aren't confessing their love for their Woodfin generator within the ad, then we know it's not a good fit. So we kind of have those indicators that we follow when we're, launching new creative. But besides that, I would say not anything beyond like the normal, data-driven decisions, right?
Yeah.
So,
Really, how do you guys handle it internally? Do you pull down social posts or ads that have negative comments? That's a touchy subject sometimes.
No, I mean, we try to address everything. I mean, it depends on how outlandish, a complaint could be. But I mean, we like to make sure if there's an issue, we want to definitely solve it, figure out what's going on. We are a very customer focused or driven company. So we don't like to take it down. We want to be real. I mean, at the end of the day, I think we all kind of face that. We're going to run into some issues. It's just all about how you handle it. So, but I think, really the only time we take down an ad is if there's just something just absolutely crazy that's been posted and we can't somehow get rid of it, but it doesn't happen very often.
yeah.
Just not performing. Yeah, that's all the questions I've got. All right, so Mike asked, okay, this is a good question we didn't cover. Can you talk about the follow-up communication sequence after a sale? How does Woodfin keep those customers engaged? Let's say the installation goes smoothly, like you said, you've given them the keys literally to the generator, and then what?
Sure. We do have a few email campaigns that go out just to kind of let people know about signing up for, different Woodfin things like our customer rewards or customer portal. And then as well with new installations, there are, I guess, not inspections, but yeah, an inspection. We do that at least once a year after each installation, just to make sure everything's still running okay, checking in with the customer. And then our salespeople also, they have their own check-ins that they do.
Are those annual inspections included in the original price, or is that, like, you sell a service package, right? Is that separate?
Well, with new installations, it comes for 1 year, and then after that, there is a fee.
Yeah. I mean, I know as a customer, one of the things we probably don't talk a lot about in marketing, but that I see working well for y'all too is the homeowner, I don't know what you call it now. Comfort protection plan is what it used to be called. Okay.
You got it. Yep.
Yeah. So shilling for Woodfin for a second, because you were what goes around comes around. Like, honestly, I think some of the best marketing you do to people that have bought from you in the past is try to get them into the loyalty club, for lack of better words, right? Yeah. And that's saved our butt a lot of times with HVAC issues and plumbing issues. So I would say some of the better marketing could just be continuing to provide good service, but also getting people into some sort of membership or subscription or just recurring relationship where you become that go-to provider, and it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah. Well, I think, even working here, I've learned a lot about my home that I didn't realize. And, just by having that plan itself, it helps keep up your systems, which ultimately, I mean, nobody wants to replace these large systems. So by tuning them up, all it's going to do is help them last longer. So.
Yeah. John asked if you have a referral program that would incent warm leads. Like, do you pay for referrals, or like referrals either from customers or, is that the intent, John? Like customer referrals? Is there any sort of reward for that?
Yeah, so with installs, we do have a referral. We do $100 gift cards if it does get installed. And then with service, we have our customer rewards program. So if you're referred by a Paw Points customer, then you get 5,000 Paw Points.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, good question. That's something we also don't usually see as marketers on the marketing side, is all the touch points with customers down the line. Because we just assume, typically, or a lot of times we get tunnel vision. It's like, oh, we gave you the lead. It's good.
Right. Yeah.
There's so much more that goes on to it, and building that relationship that doesn't impact marketing, or at least typically doesn't impact digital marketing. So it's really cool to see how you structure that internally. And your team has grown, right? So this has always been running a long time, but how does marketing work at Woodfin? Can you give us an overview of what your team looks like?
Oh goodness. Right now, it's me and 2 other people, and I've actually really enjoyed the past like 3-6 months, teaching them about the buying guide and how important it is. And because it is a little time consuming, I will admit that, but it works. So yeah, we just try to keep our finger on the pulse of everything we got going on and continuing to grow and new initiatives.
But any other questions? These have been great conversations. We can open it up one more time for questions. Otherwise,
Well, I did have one thing about warm leads on the ad side of things. So one thing that's worked well is taking, for example, the generator customers and remarketing to them for other services that Woodfin offers. So basically upselling the existing. A lot of people have a positive experience with one service line, and then we can promote the other ones to expand how Woodfin supports their home. So that's been successful as well.
I think that's what Kyle was getting at with his question about.
Oh, sorry, Kyle.
No, is that like identical timing? Retargeting.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, Kyle.
Retargeting for
thinking the
cross-sell.
same thing.
That's
Yeah.
perfect. I mean, so a follow-up question, what are your expectations then when you prepare for that kind of retargeting campaign? So for me, in my experience with paid social, it's kind of unexpected. I don't know what I can see, like what KPIs do I prepare for? And then, what does it come out? It's like, well, that was a total bust, but was it just the creative, or was it because those leads just really don't care anymore? It's kind of harder to get into the mind of the audience. At least for me it is. So I don't know if you have different expectations.
I mean, I think we've seen it. We've seen the success of that vary based off of what we are promoting to them. So it is gonna depend. I hate saying it depends, but like if someone's a generator customer and we've tried to promote like HVAC, it's like if they don't have a need for HVAC right now, nobody, like people replace their HVAC when it's broken, right?
Right.
So we try to focus our retargeting on more nice to have things, like what are those called? Oh, like gas logs, for example. One of those things people see, they've always maybe wanted it, and so or maybe they don't know Woodfin even offers that. Another common one is like the duct cleaning or indoor air quality. So we find we've had more success with moving people towards more of the nice to have things if they're in a nice to have, than trying to push them into, well, when your HVAC eventually breaks in 4 months, like try to remember us. So I think that's one of the reasons why it's been more successful.
Yeah, that's really interesting. It's almost like they're already a converted, let's say, warm lead, but you actually don't serve them even hotter things, so to speak. You give them maybe something a little cooler, a little lighter to digest.
Yeah, that's a great way to describe it. Yep.
Yeah. I don't know how many more things you sell, Kelly, that are would be considered upsells after they've
Right.
already merged for a generator, but just keeping that relationship going for sure,
Yeah.
because you want to be top of mind when, not if, but when they need a new HVAC system.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a good thing. Do you, maybe one thing we didn't touch on, we talked a lot about digital. Do you incorporate any of this into your TV or radio or offline advertising?
For the buying guide?
Well, buying guide, or yeah, I guess maybe we'll start there. I don't know the answer to this, so I'm assuming no, but do you market generators offline as well?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
We generators is one of our big things that we do market for. So, we do, some print, we do TV, and radio as well. Let me see, what else did we do? I think that's about it.
Do any of those mention the buying guide? Or
No,
are
they
those
do
just-
not.
They don't, okay. Interesting.